streaming to Instagram too, or just Twitch?
I mean, not really Instagram. You won't be able to see the video.
But we can rewatch it later, right? Okay, yeah, we can rewatch it later, Mom.
Just tell her she can go either to YouTube or Twitch. I just started it. Thank you.
He says thank you. All right.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is Sunday. We have another special episode. I got my blanket because it's super cold. So, without further ado, let me get the video going here. Cool. Can you hear me? Awesome. All righty. So, thank you again for being on here. I really appreciate it. How's everything going? That's good. That's great. Yeah, it's really exciting having somebody different like yourself on, because I come from the drum corps marching band background. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not, but I noticed some similarities, but I'm really interested in hearing your story and where you came from, and seeing if I can find like parallels between the two activities.
Yeah, of course. I grew up watching the drum corps in high school. I loved the drum corps. I had crushes on all of the guys who were drumming. So I don't know if I'm familiar with being a part of the drum corps, but I do admire you guys so much. You guys work so hard. So I think that would be a similarity, is like the dedication and the hard work and the training and the working as a team and as a corps and making it sound like one unique full voice as a whole instead of just individuals. So I think there's a lot of similarities in that aspect. So
That's awesome. It's always surprising to me hearing about like people that actually knew about drum corps, because it still feels like really small to me, that's super cool. So speaking of that, like when you were growing up, where did you grow up?
so I grew up in Southern California. I was born and raised there. So I'm a Cali girl, and I started dancing when I was really little because I was super shy, and that was kind of my way to express myself. My mom would put on jazz. She was a big jazz lover. So she'd put on jazz music and play, and I would just feel the music and just dance. And it's really interesting, as a kid who didn't talk a lot, I felt like I talked a lot through my dance movements. And I don't know if that's the same for you guys, you're drumming, but it's a way of expression. And that was like
Right.
my easiest way of expression. So,
Yeah, I mean I think that's a lot of the reasons people go into music and dance, or just the arts in general. It's a
mhm.
really easy outlet for some people that are maybe more closed off, or they prefer to stay kind of in their own head or their own space. That's definitely how it was for me. That's why I got into music in the first place. It
Yeah.
was it was just a way easier outlet than doing anything else. Plus, it was really cool.
Yeah, and like you can always learn to be outgoing later on in life, but sometimes you just need that extra little, you know, push or that extra little something that you really connect with, and that helps you just to grow,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you said your mom got you kind of into dance and all that. Did she do that when she was younger?
She did. Yeah, she actually stopped so she could raise her family. But
Mm.
she was a performer, a dancer, a music lover, and I think that's what really influenced me tremendously, was listening to jazz music, chords that didn't necessarily make sense, but as you grow up with them, you're like, oh, it starts to make sense, and
Yeah.
I feel jazz music, I really do.
Yeah.
And growing up, I started training as a classical ballet dancer later, when I was like, I want to say 9 or 10,
Mm.
because I loved ballet. Oh, it was like so beautiful and just my favorite. So when I
Yeah.
started training in that, it's purely classical music. So that started training my ear to hearing like the foundation really of music, that
Yeah.
classical, pure sound. And then those two things combined, I think, is what really kind of set the tone of my musical ear growing
Mm.
up without even realizing it. I didn't know I was
Yeah.
going to go into musical theater. I thought I was just going to stay a ballerina and dance for American Ballet Theater in New York. But, God had other plans. So I
Yeah.
was really uh, tuned into that kind of music world without even
Yeah. A
realizing
lot
it.
of people, especially that young, they're not exposed to that type of music. Like maybe they'll hear it, but they're not exposed to it in the same way. So that's you definitely had a leg up, I think, in that term.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize. So I
Yeah,
was I'm very grateful.
that's cool. So you were in SoCal. Where did you go to high school?
I went to San Dimas High. So if you've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent
Yeah.
Adventure, San Dimas High.
That's so cool.
That's that's our school. Yeah. My sister went there, graduated there. My mom is the dance coach there, so we love that school, and
That's
that's
cool.
where
Is she still doing that?
she is. Yeah, she's a dance
Wow.
teacher. She has her
That's
own
awesome.
company, and then she works for the school.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Good for her.
Yeah,
That's
thank
super
you.
cool. So what about college? Did you go to college or?
I actually didn't. Okay, so funny story. I started going to a JC close by where I lived, and I actually got a job at Disneyland at the time. So I asked my teacher, is it okay if I leave 15 minutes early to go to work on time? And she said, well, 15 minutes early today and 15 minutes early tomorrow, it's going to add up. So you might as well quit the class. And I was like, okay. So I quit the class, and I knew that school would always be there. And I also knew that at that point in my life at 18, that I wanted to be a performer. So it was a very easy transition to go to Disneyland instead and perform there, which is what I was going towards.
Right.
And thankfully, I had been working ever since. Like, there's hardly been a lull in my career up until, recently with COVID.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's great. I've
Thank
always,
you.
the past couple ones I've had on, we've all kind of talked about the same thing about if it's really, I don't want to say important because it is important to go to school. I
Yeah.
don't want to make it seem like it's not, but if it's necessary,
Hmm.
and I think especially for what we do as musicians, performers, I don't think it's always necessary to
Hmm.
go and do that. Because yeah, like you said, there's plenty of people like yourself that have been successful investing more of their time into performing and actually getting experience out of things like that. So
Yeah.
that's interesting to hear. Um, that
Thank
seems
you.
like a
Yeah,
good
and
pattern.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I've had tons of friends who've gone to college and it's been very successful for them. For me, I feel like I learn faster on the job, and I've
Mm.
had to grow even quicker and to feel like I'm, catching up to those people who did go to college and who did have that access to that type of education. Um, so I'm a I'm a visual learner and an
Mm.
auditory learner. So I know that about myself, and I know that if I watch people long enough and I listen to them long enough, I will learn much quicker than if I'm
Yeah,
just kind of being fed the
yeah,
information.
yeah. It's the same thing with me, like with drum corps and things like that. You got to move so quick. You just that's
Yeah,
how you're trained to do it. So class
right.
almost feels kind of boring to me sometimes. You just have to sit through like a 2 hour class and it's like, can I just get the material and do it on my own? Like I would rather
Right,
just
right,
I
right.
can get done with this way faster.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'm sure you failed a lot, and I have failed a lot
yeah,
not being in that environment. And that's good too. It's good to fail so that you can learn and grow even faster. You're like, oh, what not to do. Let
yeah,
me let me make sure I know exactly what I'm doing so I don't make that mistake again.
yeah. I actually just started going back to college because of COVID. I am so
Yeah,
used to working and doing things that I didn't have time before.
right.
But now I was like, maybe this is a good time to do this. Maybe it's a sign. So I started going
Yeah.
back, and there is a couple like instances where I like, wow, this is actually a little bit harder than I thought it would
Mm,
be. Because like you said, I'm not familiar with it. I haven't done it in so many years.
right,
So,
right, right.
but I'm learning how to redo that, and I'm able to transition that. Or
Yeah,
sorry, not transition, but I'm able to kind of turn that around into the way that I teach now too. It's
that's
giving
so
me some
good.
good perspectives into the way that students learn now compared to like when I was a kid or when you were a kid, because it's very different.
It is. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how much education has changed since I remember being in high school.
Well, that's a good thing too. I think if education wasn't continuing to grow and to
Yeah,
expand, then we'd be pretty stagnant. And I personally don't like being stagnant, um, or too content. I think content
mm.
is a good thing, but too content, you start to, I think of it as like a pool of water. If you leave it too long, it's going to get moldy. You just
Yeah,
got to keep stirring.
right, yeah.
So, I mean, that's all good things
Right.
for growing.
So how was you mentioned you were you did dance, but did you ever play an instrument or did you ever do anything like that?
I learned piano very briefly when I was about 8 years old. 8 years old was kind of the transition point. I was
Mhm.
doing dance classes, piano, and gymnastics. And I kind of was given, you know, an option. Okay, which one do you really want to focus on? Because, that was taking up a lot of time
Yeah.
either way. So I just knew that dance was for me and I focused really on that. But it's funny, you can dance without music, but it's extremely difficult. I think
Mhm.
even if you're dancing to no music at all, there's still some sort of influence that's pushing the body forward.
Yeah.
Um, so I think music has always just kind of been there innately in me, and that's how I feel, certain emotions. If I put on a sad song, I'm gonna feel like, sad and like in myself,
Yeah.
in my feelings. Or if I put on a happy song, then I'm gonna be dancing joyfully. So,
Yeah.
and I love that music is a universal language. Like I could go to Italy and they would
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's
It really is. It's interesting. I've been in a couple drum lines where we've had people from Japan and they can't speak English very well at all,
mhm.
but they understand the activity and they understand the music so well that we don't really. There's no language barrier. It's really easy
Yeah,
to just like you kind of use hand signals or something, and they understand exactly what you need. You know.
yeah. Isn't that
Um,
so cool? I love that.
yeah, it's super interesting. So in what would you say going through high school and what little of college you did have with music at the same time? How was your experience with that? I guess leading up to your professional career when you started auditioning for, like Broadway and things like that.
Um, like, do you mean like
Or I
what
guess
influence I had in high school? Sorry.
yeah, or how was the transition between like high school to your professional career?
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. It was kind of a culture shock, honestly. I think, um, with the very little training that I did have and deciding that I was going to go towards musical theater, I wasn't prepared at all. Like I
Hmm.
would go into these auditions doing the dancing pretty well and getting past all the dancing because that's what my focus was. And then when it came to the singing portion, it was completely foreign to me.
Hmm.
I didn't have a music book. I didn't know what diphthongs were. I didn't know what crescendo. I didn't know anything.
Wow.
I just had I want to say I'm only saying this because people have told me this. They said you have like a raw talent, like you just have it. And I'm grateful because I wouldn't have booked my jobs if I had just danced really well. I had to dance and sing
Yeah.
and, and act and perform really well. So I think if that influence when I was younger I didn't have that, I wouldn't have gotten these shows. So that's where I really kind of lacked in my education was the knowledge of music and things. But again, I kind of learned it on the job,
Wow.
being forced to, which was
Right.
good, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than not getting the job. Yeah. That's good.
Right, right. I mean, I think they saw the potential. They saw the talent that I had, and they were like, "You have a really great voice." I'm like, "Okay, if you say so. You're the professional." I don't know. I've only ever sung in the shower.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
what was your first production you got into then?
my first big production, I want to say, was West Side Story, the national tour. So that was one of the productions that Arthur Lawrence, the writer of West Side Story, had worked on. It was his last production before he passed. Lin-Manuel was involved because he translated some of the words into Spanish. Um, and a lot of my cast members were like Thane Jasperson and Neil Haskell and all of these
Oh wow,
guys that
that's awesome.
I'm now working with later, which was awesome. So we were super young, naive in New York City for the first time learning this show, and I was like meeting Leonard Bernstein's son. Like it was so cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah, that was
Did
probably
it did it hit you at the time, or were you just kind of like, oh, that's cool, I guess?
Oh yeah, it hit me. I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
That's awesome. That's
I
so
loved
cool.
it. I loved being a part of that show.
Right.
I toured with them only for a short time because I ended up getting Wicked shortly after. So it just kind of like went really
That's awesome.
quickly.
That's super cool. So how did you, going off of what you said about having kind of your raw talent or the inexperience in that field, how did they train you for that? Or what did you do to prepare for that or kind of supplement the material you needed to learn?
I asked a lot of questions.
That's good.
I don't think I was at the point where I was too prideful to really not ask those questions. It was more beneficial for me to look maybe a little dumb or a little naive than to think I knew it all and just kind of figure it out, you know.
Right.
So I asked a lot of questions. I listened. I think that's probably the most important thing is just listening to what people are doing, what they're saying, and then retaining that information.
Right. Did I mean that's I'm sure that was pretty intimidating,
Oh
having
yeah.
like such a steep learning curve. Where I guess to kind of reference it to drum corps, I mean there's some times where depending on the group you're with, you might get, I don't want to say bullied, but there might be a lot of pressure coming from people like, come on, dude, like figure it out. I mean, did you ever feel anything like that? Or if you didn't, I mean, how did you handle it if you did?
Um, it's interesting. I don't feel like I had that pressure when I was younger. I think as I've gotten older, I've put that pressure on myself
Hmm.
to be great, to be, the best of the best because I'm in the best show on Broadway. Like those two words, like Hamilton and Broadway, there's
Yeah.
so much pressure put on us as individuals to be the best of the best. And so I think if anything, I'm the hardest on myself. But as a young girl, a young woman, a lot of pressure on myself, and that's probably better.
Right. Yeah.
Probably a better thing to do, not
Yeah.
be so hard on yourself. But fearful, I guess would that's a
Yeah.
terrible. But yeah, it could be
I get
fear.
what you mean though, because you see, at least for me, like I saw, or because I saw, like, okay, I made it. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose the thing I worked so hard for. So I need to be
Yeah.
better, because I know that there are people just as hungry as I was that are coming for my spot now, and they want to
Yeah.
kick me out.
Absolutely. That's exactly the mentality we have, you know, once we get the job. It doesn't stop there. The training doesn't stop there. It's even, if anything, it's even more so. I'm training even harder than I did when I was younger,
Yeah.
just to stay up to par with this job that's been given to me.
Right.
Um, yeah.
When did you? So you mentioned you were on tour when you got the Wicked job. The Wicked was on Broadway too, right?
It was. I was in the national tour of Wicked.
That's awesome.
So for 4 years, I was touring the world.
Oh my God, 4 years.
Yeah,
That's
getting
so
paid
long.
to do that. It
That's so
is
cool.
long.
It's so long. I'm used to doing like a 3, maybe at the most 4-month tour, but 4 years,
Oh,
it's a long time.
it was. And honestly, by the end of it, I was like, I just want to be in one place and not live out of
Yeah.
a suitcase, please. Like,
Yeah,
I'm so tired of being on a plane.
that's funny. How did you audition for the process of, like Wicked or
Enough. I think all three of them I auditioned in Los Angeles.
Oh really?
So, yeah, which is interesting because, Talcy or the casting, whoever it was, oftentimes comes to the West Coast and checks out the talent there. So I was able to get seen by all of these casting directors, in LA. And talking Hamilton specifically, I auditioned in front of Andy Blankenbuehler and Tommy Kail. And Andy actually was casting Cats at the time as well. And so he was, I
The
think in his
movie or the
mind,
play?
the Broadway show
Broadway show.
that was coming out around the same time. So I think he was interested in me for something. He knew I liked giving him an extra headshot and resume. Me to New York and auditioned there for Hamilton and Cats. So I was auditioning for
Dang.
kind of both things, wondering, am I going to make my Broadway debut in one of these?
Yeah.
And ended up they gave the Cats thing to someone else, and then even the woman won position. So that was Carly Bediol. She was the original cast member, and she was leaving, so they needed someone like immediate.
Wow.
And I was available, and I looked the part.
Yeah.
I did the part well, and so they hired me. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those times where it's like, are you free? Can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. I don't care what I'm doing. I will do it. Yes.
Yeah, right place, right time is honestly how I booked a lot of my jobs.
That's awesome though. That's super good. I mean, I think that's important too, is well, if word gets out and they're like, hey, we need somebody, who do you recommend? And they're like, well, I would recommend this person, but they're never available, so I wouldn't even try.
Yeah.
I've seen some people like that where they miss out on opportunities because they're just never, either they don't want to or they just can't make it work in their schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of free jobs. A lot of free jobs. And what's amazing is that those free jobs led to paying jobs. Because I met somebody who did this, and it was so interesting. I was actually, when I first moved to New York, I'm forgetting their names right now, but people who were in Broadway shows, like I was serving coffee to them for a friend who needed me to assist him in this thing he was doing. And it turns out 6 months later, I book Hamilton. I'm actually working with John Rua. Like,
that's so cool.
It's amazing. And I live by the quote that says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I think, to go along with what you're saying of, taking jobs or not taking jobs, if you're constantly working hard, you'll be available when those jobs come up, because talent can be lazy sometimes.
Yeah. That's a good point. I like that quote a lot. That's really cool. I haven't heard that before. What was it again? I want to remember it. I want to make sure I remember it right.
Yeah, of course. It says hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Okay. Got it. I like that one a lot.
Me too.
Being prepared side of it, what do you recommend for auditioning?
Well, being prepared first. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as like knowing your material, knowing the material they gave you, looking the part, like don't come in sloppy, dress for the job that you want.
Right.
Bring a water bottle, bring a Band-Aid if you think you'll need it. Like just being extra and over prepared, I think is like super important, because you want to try to ease those nerves as much as possible. And anything, your dog pooped or puked everywhere, I don't know, but like just trying to be as extra prepared is going to really take off that pressure. And just knowing that like you go in with confidence, that's another thing, confidence, and know that you did the best that you could have done, and then leave it at the door. And it's at that point, it's up to God. Like,
right.
It's really out of your control and out of your hands, and you just have to kind of surrender to that.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's super cool to me to see how that's like exactly the water bottle thing. Like that's such a huge thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it, but there's so many people I've seen at auditions that come, like they don't have even the material printed out. They don't have a water bottle. So when they're like, all right, take a water break. They're like, do you have water? Like, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, we don't either. We're here to audition you, man. Like,
if you have a dry voice and you're dehydrated or whatever it is, like I know it's as simple as a water bottle, but even those small little things, they'll actually notice and they'll see that you're prepared, that you want to be there, and that you'll work hard even after you get the job.
Right. Yeah. So what, before you became a professional, I guess more so in like high school or your college career that you were in before you did all that, Was there anybody specifically
given? She put aside her career for me and my sister, and I admire her so much, creating her own business. And she's a hero to me. I think if it was like somebody who's, famous, it would probably be Michael Jackson, or because I was in the I really looked up to. I would watch the VHS of Michael Jackson on repeat.
I remember those.
Put it in, and then like have a ballroom video
Yeah.
in while Michael Jackson was rewinding.
That's so cool. Did you learn any of the dance moves for Michael Jackson? You did?
Oh yeah, I know Beat It, I know Smooth Criminal, you name it, I know it.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
I had a lot of free time on my hands as a kid. I didn't really have a lot of friends.
Who around then did you look up to?
Yeah, I would say my peers. For sure, like, because that's who you're surrounded by. I mean, I have James Monroe Iglehart like on my phone. I could message him if I wanted to. Like, and Mandy Gonzalez. Like, these people are Tony Award winning nominated performers, and I get to interact with them daily. That's awesome. And that is so humbling and so amazing that like I'm put in a category with these people. Like, I'll never and I'm not saying I'm comparable to them. I'm just like put in that same,
But you have their phone number. Like you're interacting. Like my hero when I was growing up. This was one of those. That was one of those moments where it's like, dude, I made it. Like I never honestly thought I was gonna make it to this point. And then you get that little interaction, or like you said, like you're working with those people.
Right.
And it's just it's such a blessing to be able to finally see your all your hard work come to that point, to where you are one of those people.
Yeah, and they become your mentors too,
Yeah.
You can go out, you can talk to them anytime, and ask their advice about things, and for the most part they're so helpful. Like, I don't know one performer who would not be helpful, and just because we're all there to support and lift each other up, and so that's really
exactly. Sorry, I'm turning my camera back on. Keeps turning off. There we go. Yeah, I mean, and that's also, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but you're in that position now too, where I'm, growing up, when I was looking up to those people, that they weren't going to be as humble as they actually were. And I was like, dude, I'm just a little kid. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to want to talk to me. But then I did talk to them, and they were really cool, and then I grew up to be in that position, and I almost felt like it was my job to be humble and to help those people, and to help the people that looked up to me. Or I don't know if I'm successful, to remember that you were once one of those kids that might have been, looking up to yourself or somebody in your shoes.
Absolutely. I mean, I make it a point to go to the stage door every night and sign the playbills, because I am no better than anybody. I'm not big enough or famous enough to not spend my time with the people who are paying money to come see me perform. And it doesn't mean that I do it every night, because there are nights where I am tired and I want to go home, and my body needs that rest. But for the most part, it's my favorite. I always tell people it's my favorite part of the day, because I get to see why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think it can be easy sometimes for performers to stand on stage at the end of the show and kind of receive all that applause and make it selfish, I guess, when really the whole purpose of performing is to be selfless and to give these people, the 1,300 people in the audience, the opportunity to escape their world for a minute.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's a really great way to say that.
Well, thank you.
To be selfless. I like that.
Yeah, it's sometimes really hard to do. Yeah. Because as performers, we're always hey, look at me. I'm performing. I'm the one with the the attention right now.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's to make the other person happy.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So, next thing, what about the people that they might be kind of on the fence about doing it, about
mm,
whether or not they just don't think that they can do it. I know a big thing, especially for our activity, is the financial aspect of it. Like
mm.
sometimes they just can't afford to go to an audition. Like, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would always sit in the back row of the Wicked Pantages Theater, like the very nosebleed section of it.
Hmm.
And my stomach would churn because I wasn't able to be on stage and perform. And so I think if you have that same desire and that same passion to really stop you, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of things that are keeping us from being together and performing musical theaters, such as and
Yeah.
tell a story that way. So I think it's, if you have that passion inside you and have that ache. Sorry, 1 second.
You're good. By the way, if any of you have questions, feel free to send them in the chat, guys. That's okay.
They're very sweet. I
That's cute.
apologize.
How old are they?
um, they are 13 and 14.
That's awesome.
So teens. They're so sweet.
Are they interested in like theater and all that too?
Actually, one of them loves playing golf, and the
Oh,
other one is a jumper on horses. So
oh,
very
whoa. That's
different.
super cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. But they're adorable, and it's really nice to be.
When you finally got your first large scale contract, or I don't know if they
Mhm.
call them contracts for you, but what was it
Yeah.
like?
Um, it was really exciting. I'm sure I cried with my mom on the phone. I definitely cried when I found out about Hamilton. My
Hamilton.
agent called me, and I had just landed. Um, I think I was coming from New York back to California, and I see a message from my agent, and I call her, and she said, "You're gonna make your Broadway debut in Hamilton," and I
Oh my god,
cried,
that's so
and
cool.
everyone around me is looking at me like, "What is this crazy lady
Yeah,
crying?" So yeah, it's been really kind of surreal every time that happens, and just a reminder that those were like 1% of the no
yeah,
constantly constantly throughout my life. And I think that's what makes those moments so much more beautiful
yeah,
and joyful, because you know that you've worked so hard for this, and every tear, every blister, every late night at the studio, every class you've taken, every bone you've broken, everything is
yeah,
just leading up to these moments, these big, significant, awesome.
yeah. And one thing I still think is really cool is whenever I ask somebody that, money never comes up. It's never the money.
Yeah.
It never is. Even if you do get paid really well doing this, it's still,
Mhm.
I've never heard anybody say like, "Oh, dude, I was so excited to finally make like a paycheck." And it's
Yeah.
always because of what you said, like how much we sacrifice so much for this art,
Hmm.
and it's so nice to be able to see finally like some form of success that way.
Hmm.
Not in the form of even a paycheck. I've always told people when they ask me like, why do you do this activity?
Hmm.
And I always tell them like, it's just I can't not. Like I
Right.
can't not do music. I've tried other things. Like I just can't. And it's not
Right.
about the money. It's not about anything like that. Fans and signing things for the people that come in to watch you. It's because you give people an escape when you come in and do this.
Hmm.
Just as much as it's an escape for you when you're performing.
Right.
You know, um, yeah, that's really interesting to see that somebody like yourself, who I'm sure I know you get paid doing that. You
Hmm.
kind of follow the same track.
Yeah. And because they've been told, hey, you know what, this is actually going to pay more. And I understand that, people make decisions based off of circumstance, and so
Yeah.
sometimes they're not able to do what they love. But yeah, if you have that option in like a day,
Yeah.
and I just happen to get paid for what I love, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's always way better too.
The cherry on top, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that we
No.
I would do it for free, but it's nice that we get paid.
Right, yeah. So when you made it, what was the learning process like? Because I'm pretty unfamiliar with how you learn that show, especially like Hamilton.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of similarities between how the show or what it is that you're actually doing, and you know, like the drum corps, marching, pageantry activity like that. But I'm interested to know how you do that.
Okay. Yeah. When I booked the show, we learn, typically each performer that's coming in learns the show in 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
And that's but I think with Hamilton, because there's a turntable and there's like these little extra things that you don't normally deal with in a normal Broadway show, it takes that extra week. But normally the first thing we do is learn the music. So that's like kind of the foundation of everything. We learn the music, we learn our parts, our harmony, and then once we have that, then we learn the choreography on top of that. So then we can kind of start to, you know, marry the two. And then the last part is the staging. We actually get on stage and we figure out what it looks like it's the original cast. You all learn it together and you go through this process together.
Right.
When people start to leave and you have, you know, one new person coming in, you learn it with the dance captain, with the music director, and then you have what's called a put-in. So a put-in is where the cast will come in, the entire cast will come in before, you know, a normal evening show and do like a full performance with that one person who's being put into the show in costume. So it's run with light and sound and mics and everything.
Full show.
It's a full show. Everyone else, you know, who's been in the show, they can wear their own whatever they want, and they can, you know, kind of mark through the show because they have an evening show later. But the person being put in, that's their one opportunity to get to do it with everybody, full lights, costume, sets, props, everything. And then usually it's the next day or that evening as they get put into the show. Yes, it's a quick process, but you know, we've all been working our brain muscles that way for as long as we can remember, so it comes easy.
I just can't believe that it's so in the span of like 2 months.
Oh,
you
yeah.
You guys are learning like, how long was Hamilton? Like almost 2 hours?
It's 3 hours.
It's 3 hours? Oh my god, I didn't even feel it. It doesn't feel like it's 3 hours.
2:45-ish.
Right.
But with the 15-minute intermission, it's 3 hours.
That's crazy. Wow. So how long are your days? Like how long how long are rehearsals?
Rehearsals. Ooh. So I also understudy, like I'm in the ensemble every night, but I understudy Peggy Mariah. So we have understudy rehearsals, and that's usually in the afternoons. We'll go to the theater and we'll run through the show, kind of break it down. If there's any questions that we may have, the stage manager will kind of, you know, give us the answers, or the dance captain, whoever is in, you know, kind of in charge. So those are long days because we're at the theater from, you know, the afternoon, kind of prep for my show. So I'll do a vocal warm up, I'll do my makeup, you know, go to the gym, whatever it might be, to kind of make sure my body and my, you know, everything is ready to go. And then we do the show in the evening. So if it's a 7 o'clock, I usually get there. Then I'm there all day. I'm there in the morning at 10 a.m. doing like the edu hams that we have, which are so fun. And then they feed us, which is great. And then I'm at the theater for 12 hours and I very rarely get to see any sun. So it's COVID has been nice for that. I've been able to get some sun and get my color back.
That's cool. That's super interesting. I was expecting like even during the learning process you guys were there for longer than just like the afternoon. So that's, you guys must really be like cranking out then during all that, just moving super fast. So
it's a well-oiled machine for sure.
Did they audition you on that? Like like how fast you're able to learn something? Like, did they ever give you like not improv, but I don't know if sight reading would be the right word,
Mm.
but like a specific piece of material at an audition to see if you can pick
Yeah,
it up quickly?
that's exactly what they do at auditions. So you will go into an audition, learn, 30 seconds of the choreography, quick process. And anybody who's ever done a musical theater or a Broadway audition knows that you have a half an hour to learn this 30-second piece, and then you do it. And
Okay.
then once you go through all of the cut process, so we have like what, 300 girls who go to an audition, they'll get cut, so then there's 150, and then they've got to cut some more, so there's 50, you know and it could be something as simple as you were just having an off day and your brain wasn't working and you didn't wake it up soon enough and you're forgetting the choreography. That's going to cost you a job. So you have to be on it. And there's a lot, good, healthy competition in those audition rooms.
Right. No, I can imagine.
If you notice, but the sun keeps moving, so I keep
I see
shifting.
that. Yeah.
I'm trying to get out of the way.
That's funny. There we go. Ooh, here we go.
Quickly, I think it's embarrassing, first and foremost, to not be prepared or not going to go to this audition unless I really feel like, oh, I just am not. I know I'm going to fail miserably. But for the most part, I know that if I go, that's half the battle. Just getting to the audition room. You're not going to get 100% of the opportunities you don't take. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's a good lesson for me to learn. Like, it's my own fault that I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
And but even still, I should still go. And every opportunity to audition is a learning experience. And so it's like if you're prepared.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at it. It's like you still need to go to school, you still need to do these tests, and it's schooling. It's just yeah.
Somebody else asked, kind of like what you were saying before, opportunities traditionally come from being in the right place and the right time.
Mm-hmm.
How would you recommend approaching, or I guess another way I would put it is, how would you recommend placing yourself in the right place or the right time in the digital aspects, using social media to open up your opportunities?
Yeah. Well, if I was to look at it, burning your bridges, so it translates into the social media world where even more so you can network. You can DM someone who you've admired for years, say, hey, is there an opportunity where I can actually be kind and reach out? And I think if you look at it not from a selfish point of view, kind of what we talked about earlier, looking at it as like hey, I'm here to really learn and grow. Like, how can I help you, kind of a thing? Like, what do you need from me? Then most likely people will be more willing to kind of share their information. I've been friends with, and he recommended to me to someone in LA, and then that person in LA recommended me to someone, who's a big time producer for, shows. So like, it's so interesting how this world works. And I think just being kind and humble is really the biggest thing.
Right.
Yeah. I have a funny story actually that kind of goes along with that. So when I did West Side Story, I had the opportunity to break my contract to go do Wicked. And I really, was considering that, was like, do I break this contract and do I do this show that I've loved? I love Wicked. Like, that's my favorite show. My dog is named after Nessa Rose, one of the characters. Like, but I actually turned it down. It turns out Wicked was able to, they actually brought someone in for 3 months until I was able to join their contract, which was amazing.
Wow.
Like, so I got that job. And then when I booked Hamilton, I had broken that
Oh,
contract
wow.
with the West Side Story. I very easily could have been disqualified or
Wow.
whatever you want to call it for Hamilton because they could see that I didn't keep my commitment and I was, able to just let them go so frivolously. But no, I think me as a person and growing up in the standards that I have for myself, I knew don't break your contracts, don't burn your bridges,
Yeah.
and actually helped me later on in life, several years later. But
Yeah.
there's no way that I would have gotten that show if I had burnt that bridge earlier.
That's
So
crazy.
kind of the same idea.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's so funny how it works like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Good for you. Like better opportunities, but
Mm.
yeah, and I'm always kind of just like, well, I mean, I don't know why you took the gig in the first place then if you're just gonna bail on it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If those people end up hiring you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Another person asked, what is the most memorable moment on any of your national tours, both on stage and or off stage?
Oh man, because it's live theater, there are so many moments that just crack me up, like mishaps, fire alarms that have gone off,
Oh,
people
really?
people kicking their shoe into the audience and the audience like slowly passing it back on stage. Oh gosh, the in Wicked, the bubble stopping so many times, the lights on in the house opening up, like turning on, I mean, and we're like staring at the audience, like, oh gosh,
Uh-oh.
they actually we can see them just as much as they can see us. It's
Yeah.
a very awkward feeling. Or like when Elphaba doesn't fly, then we have to do what's called Plan B, where we actually like lay on the ground and pretend that she's flying. Oh my goodness.
That's awesome.
One time Lynn was backstage and he had this like cat mask on and the guys were just like, being boys and pulling pranks on each other.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, me slipping on my dress. Oh gosh, how many times? Probably 10 times. There are so
Yeah.
many things. And that's what makes it fun, because we're not robots. We're
Yeah.
live human beings. And I think sometimes the audience forgets that. So they're like just chomping on their, popcorn, like watching a movie, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, but 100% every night. So there's bound to be something, that happens that's wrong. And so we just go with the flow,
Yeah.
just like
Right.
life.
Do you just like take the shoe back and then just really quick put it back on, or?
Yeah, so it wasn't me. It was my friend Roddy, and he's a swing, so that means that like if someone's sick or they call out of the show, the swing goes on for them. And it was during Room where it happens, and I guess his feet just like caught in the right moment when he was doing this pas de cheval step, and the audience, like someone caught it and they're like, now I've got this shoe in my hand. What do I do? And so they passed it to each person to like put on the stage. So then there's just this shoe sitting on the stage. And I think one of our costumers like ran from the back around to the front and like grabbed it from the audience.
That's awesome.
It was
so funny. How do you like not laugh at that while you're performing?
Oh,
I would have been dying.
We're in those moments. It's so hard to keep a straight face. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
So sometimes we break.
That's funny.
We try not to. It's trying to be professional, but
sometimes
like
that's good.
Yeah, so we're doing a good job, I guess,
Yeah, there you go. Cool. So there's a couple other questions. I'll get to those, the show and all that. What is the typical day in the life of being on Broadway?
Around the show, I'm getting ready, I'm going to the gym, getting my man to do things and dancing and singing.
Yeah.
So the moments where I can find time to just like watch my favorite TV show or, take a nap. Oh gosh, I love naps.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I'm like, God, I love naps. They're so good.
Oh, they're so great. I wish I could go back to preschool or kindergarten and just be like, no, you need. I
Parents are always like,
know.
if you're tired, just go take a nap. I was like, no, I'm losing so much time.
Yeah. And when my parents took naps, I was like, I'm never going to do that when I'm older.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
But now I'm like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I can't, sometimes can't function without it.
Having, you know, interaction with maybe some of your colleagues, doing to kind of fill the void.
Mm-hmm. Say a lot of my friends are, in the beginning especially, we took it really hard. I thought we would have been back like months ago.
Yeah.
And right now, you know, what could that possibly look like in the future? You know, I gained the COVID-19 like everybody else. And took a couple months to just kind of rest my body because I've been working for so long that it was nice to kind of to do that, to doing things that I've kind of put off a little bit, like spending time with family, which I'm realizing more now is so important. You know, that's what fills my cup. I've really grown to love. I love drifting.
Cool.
I just started golfing, like things that still.
So did I. I just started
those like precision sports,
mm-hmm.
like things that you really like have to like.
Yeah.
Even with drumming, I'm sure. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're, there's not really a roundabout time. You know, you gotta have like right in time.
Right. And I'm teaching a lot. I'm doing Broadway mentor sessions. So I'm actually teaching young women and men who, you know, want to be on Broadway later. And that's been really a good way to fill my time, is by giving to others. I think I do that. And it's been a little bit difficult, but with I have an outreach program called Broadway Babes. Mm-hmm. And I actually teach senior citizens how to tap dance. They can do it sitting in their wheelchairs or on the chairs or with it. I love it. I started it back in California, doing it at a local, you know, senior center there, and then I did it in New York at the Hamilton Senior Center. We're ex-Broadway performers. It was so inspiring because they have so much wisdom, and I learned more from them than I think they learned from me. And that was, serving others is like, man, if you're not doing that, especially during this time, I and better place, one simple like class at a time, or moment at a time, having good conversations with people.
It was on purpose, but I think that this was meant to happen to kind of give the world a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And to like really are really important in our lives, you know. I just recently lost my mom in, I think it was July, and oh my God. It was one of those times where until that happened, I didn't really realize how much time I spent. She was from Fresno. I live in San Jose, and San Jose is like mind-bogglingly expensive. Mm-hmm. And ever since I moved out here, I just had to work. So I took as many teaching jobs as I could, as many performing jobs as I could. I started working a retail job when I moved out here, and kind of ever since I moved out here, I've just been working, like oftentimes like 6, maybe 7 days a week. And once COVID started, any time off, and then I started to realize a little bit too late that like I need to spend some time with my family. And unfortunately, then I lost my mom. But ever since then, I'm kind of happier. Not, it sounds bad, but it's kind of shown me that like I need to prioritize things like that a little better, and I need to take time for like self-care. Cause I'm really bad at that. I put that on the back burner like crazy, and especially like spending time with family and doing things like you said to fill your cup. And I, that's why I started doing this, the whole streaming thing, because I noticed a lot of other people in my community too they were getting kind of sad that the drum corps thing wasn't happening, or marching band, or all the kids that I teach, we didn't even get to finish our season. And they, I started just getting on to talk to everybody and see how everybody was doing. And then I started getting the idea of like, what if I talk to people that like yourself have experience in performing and things like that, I'm really interested to hear like insight on how they're progressing through their activity.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
you said some really important things too that, you know, I constantly, I've missed so many things being in the show because
Yeah.
I made that my priority. And I missed graduations and weddings and birthdays and holidays and you name it. And I I think it was easier to miss those things because I was distracted. You know, I
Yeah.
had a job to do. I had, you know, the performance that I needed to do 8 times a week that took up a lot of my time. And I think, you know, being back home is just a constant reminder, like who is Lauren Boyd really, even without the job, even without Hamilton, without my talents, who what is Laura, because you're not going to have that job always.
Yeah.
You're not going to have those things that make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Who, and those are good questions too.
We kind of have to figure that out right now. Like you have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know, you have nothing else to distract you from those questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually in New York or in on the East Coast this week for a small 2-week gig. And this happened to be, and it wasn't the same, but it kind of hit me. I was bawling. I was like, I could, you know, I could be with my family. And I chose again, you know, my job over my family. And I don't think it's a bad thing always, but I think it was a good reminder, like, you know, because you're doing what you love, you're also sacrificing so much.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it comes to that point too, where you're like, how much do you want to really sacrifice of of yourself to do what you love? And are you able to do those both of those things at the same time? I mean, that's a good question for you. Like, do you feel like you're able to do all of
I think my mentality on it before COVID and all that stuff was job first. Like no matter what,
Yeah.
I have to be stable, you know, for
Right.
myself, my family, and I have to make sure that I'm doing my part to provide. You know, that was always my mentality. I know that I have to put that before everything else. When I do that till you're like 21, 22 for me, and that was what I needed to do. But now, kind of like mid post COVID, things like that, it's hard. I think, like I said, I'm trying to find a balance, you know, and I think it's kind of situational. I do really see the importance of doing what I love, you know, especially when times are tough and it's like I need something to be happy. I need something to kind of pick me up a little bit. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I am able to make money and do what I can to do that. So it's difficult. I'm not really sure, but I do think that there are definitely sacrifices in doing what you love, you know, no matter what it is. I mean, even if it is spending time with your family, if you're spending time with your family and that's what you love to do, then you're probably making sacrifices on, you know, like your career or something at that time. You know, even if it's small, you know, maybe it's a day off of work, but a day off here, a day off there, you know, maybe you're missing out on a promotion or something like that. All that stuff with music and performing and traveling. Yeah, you're probably missing out on something else at home.
Yeah.
You know, luckily, I don't know. I'm sure it's the same with you, especially, you know, your mom being an artist with music and dance and things like that. But my parents never really, luckily, they never held it against me. Super, super, super happy to see me doing what they knew I loved to do, you know?
Yeah. Is that how you ground yourself?
What do you mean?
Like what do you feel like grounds you? Like when we're talking like identity wise, like what do you think is really important to you?
A lot lately, like kind of flipping back and forth, especially between education and like writing music. I'm not so much of a performer anymore, because I mean the activity that I was involved in kind of has a time, you know, that you can actually do it, which is a bummer. and then you kind of naturally just transition to, you know, either education or writing or things like that. I really want to go into composition for movies, TVs, games, even theater, things like that.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I'm like really trying to find out if education is what I really love to do more.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Let's see. We have a couple later, like reading, outdoors, or anything like that. Always curious to know what experts in certain fields do on their free time.
Archery, golf. I went drifting for the first time, and I've always wanted to do that. There's a place in Southern California, it's the Apple Valley Speedway, and they have events where people pay, which is super exciting to me. I don't know why I love it so much.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, I think I like secretly want to do things that I see in movies. So like someone riding a horse, shooting an arrow, like is super cool, and like anything that makes me look cool or feel cool, I'm down.
What about skydiving? Would you ever do that?
Oh gosh, okay. I'm afraid of heights, so I don't think I would go that far. Maybe if you know, if there was a special event or I was with a professional, maybe.
I don't think I could do that.
It's so much. Hard. It's that's a lot.
Yeah. Like Blake also asks if you today could speak to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
I would say to trust yourself. I was really hard. I think I've always been really hard on myself, always try to be perfect, always try to be the best one in the room. And it helped for sure, like to have that, you know, that drive going in. But I think, you know, just trusting that I do have the talent, I do have the ability, and you know, sometimes you don't get things because it's out of your control. Like you don't have the right hair color or the right color eyes, like things that you seriously can't change. So yeah.
Dang. That's a good one. With regards to nerves going into an audition, do you have any advice for dealing with? And
I pray.
Are you pretty religious?
I wouldn't say religious. I have like a pretty strong relationship with Jesus Christ. So like I spend a lot of time reading my Bible, and that's what grounds me. If we're gonna talk like identity wise, like that really is like the core of who I am is my faith, and that keeps me really focused and grounded. So especially when, you know, I feel lonely or feel like I'm not good enough, I focus on that. So faith, then family, then friends. That's me.
Yeah. Oh my God. My wife wants to know if you know Anthony Ramos and Jordan Fisher very well.
Anthony's a sweetheart. We're friends. I wouldn't say we're super close, but he was still in the show when I arrived, and he's so sweet. Jordan Fisher and I made our Broadway debuts together.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we kind of learned the show around the same time. We're in the show for a while. He is so talented and always so kind, and almost to the point where I was like, is this guy real? Like, is he really always this nice and joyful and happy? And sure enough, yeah, that's him. He's a cool guy. I message him every once in a while. He's doing well. I think he's getting married soon, so that's
cool.
Exciting. Yeah.
That's again one of those moments where like I know these people. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. And I always have them do like little videos for my sister. Like, hey, will you do a shout out for my sister Brooke? And they're so cool when they do it. And so she's like probably the luckiest girl besides me.
Right.
It's all these.
So last couple questions. What do you enjoy most about being a performer? And why, at the end of the day, do you do it?
I do it to make people happy. And it's a good outlet for me. So those are probably the two reasons. I I honestly, I don't know if I'm good at anything else besides performing. I know that's terrible.
I feel
But it would be something completely, it would be related. There's no way I could do something, like aerospace engineering.
yeah,
Like that sounds really cool and really fun, but I don't know if I would be as happy
yeah,
as if I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's sad that we don't have the opportunity to perform, but that doesn't mean that we can't. We can still find other outlets. So
right. If you had to though, what would be your other career?
probably aerospace engineering.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean
That's awesome.
that's what my dad does, so I'm kind of familiar with it. I love, I thought I was going to be the first dancer in space, like on the moon. That would have
That's
been really
awesome.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty smart, so I could do it. It would just I'd have to start all over from scratch,
yeah.
and that might take a while. So
Yeah, my old roommate was an aeronautical space engineer.
oh wow, cool.
He went into school for that, and it just
Mhm.
takes so long.
Oh yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
To me, that I love it. I love space. I love all of
Mhm.
that, the science behind it. But
Yeah.
it just I can't. I can't
Maybe
deal
I
with the
can
math and
combine.
the numbers and all that, and it's just
Yeah, it's a lot.
it's a lot.
Maybe I can combine the two, like maybe mechanics
Yeah,
and movement, like into something.
yeah, like a
Yes.
like abstract dance or something. It's all these theories.
Maybe that'd be cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned Broadway Babes,
Mhm.
and you already said that's like a senior citizen outreach program.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is that only? I guess where's that based out of, or is there a way that other people can support it or donate to it or anything like that?
I mean, yeah, we're constantly looking for old tap shoes. If people have them, they can send them to
Okay.
the Actors Fund. And then if you go to the Instagram page, you can find information there about like when we have classes. There's actually classes on YouTube. So if you have a grandma or a grandpa, you can send them to the page and they can actually take the class.
Okay. You guys do
Yeah.
it virtual too right now?
Right now, yeah, it's
That's
virtual
awesome. That's
because
super cool.
it's safer for the seniors to
Yeah.
not meet in person. I would prefer meeting in person, and we had our our spring show that we were looking forward to, and then everything
Yeah.
had to change. So yeah,
That's super.
babes on Instagram.
Okay. Let me type that
Yep.
out.
And there's different resources on there.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So, just last thing, do you have anything coming up in the future, like any auditions or anything we should look out for?
Um,
Or?
kind of, yes. So that's one of the reasons I'm here in the city. Um, I don't know, am I allowed to say it? No, tomorrow it's gonna be press released.
Hmm.
But I will say it is Hamilton related.
Ooh.
And you can, I don't know if you've figured it out yet, but those are some exciting things to look forward to. And you can follow me on Instagram if you're looking for other ways to support me and
Yeah.
see what I'm up to. But yeah, I'll continue to teach and do my mentor
That's
sessions.
cool.
So
Oh yeah. Do you give lessons like virtually or anything like that?
yeah, virtually. I have a lesson in just a little bit for a young girl who's looking to be on Broadway. And so yeah, I tailor
Nice.
it to every person that I meet.
Okay. And can they just contact you if anybody has a inquiry?
Absolutely. DM me
Awesome.
on Instagram. Lauren, Lauren, M Boyd, Boyd.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, that's about. Of course, yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'll talk to you later. I will make sure to plug all that stuff, and hopefully everything goes well for you. Just stay safe and have fun with all your lessons and Broadway. And I wish you well. Wish you well.
Thank you, Joey. Same to you. Be safe, okay?
Yeah. You too. See ya.
Bye.
Alrighty. Cool, man. That was such an awesome session. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely learned. I learned a lot from the stuff she was saying. Super humble. GGWP. Nice. Yeah. So go follow her. See what she has going on. That senior citizen outreach program is really cool. That is something that I've always thought is really cool whenever people do things for senior citizens. I would love to do something like that too. Fortunately, I don't really know what to do, but I think something like that kind of inspires me now to kind of look into it. So I might look into it. Definitely go and support her and the things, all that. Yeah, that's about it, man. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.